Hi everyone, welcome to this channel An Academy CAT for MBA and welcome to this session. So in this session we are going to talk about figures of speech, right? So all of you who have been preparing for SNAP know how important this particular question type is. So in this particular session I'm going to tell you about different figures of speech. I am going to give you a lot of examples of those, and also I'll share with you some sort of tips to identify them quickly. Okay, so before that, a little bit about myself. So my name is Apurva Deshpande. I've completed my master's in English. I have been teaching English for over 7 years now, and I've also qualified some exams conducted by the University of Cambridge. Right. As I said, so today's agenda is figures of speech. In SNAP, particularly, you always have about 2 to 3 questions where they give you a sentence or a dialogue where you have to identify the figure of speech. So this session will help you with that, and it will completely sort out that particular question type for you. Right. So before that, I hope all of you have subscribed to our YouTube channel at An Academy CAT for MBA. If not, please subscribe to our channel right now and also join the Telegram group at CAT for MBA. On the Telegram group, you will get all the material that you have been attending the sessions of, that will be shared on the Telegram group. And for our YouTube channel, guys, I'm sure all of you have already subscribed to it. Please spread the word. Please tell your friends, your college mates about it, and please ask them also to subscribe to this channel. Right. So the next thing that all of you have to do is get the Unacademy Plus subscription. So see, basically you have been attending these live sessions on YouTube, and no doubt they are extremely helpful. But apart from that, all the educators have launched their Plus courses, and those sessions will be available only on the Unacademy Plus platform. Okay, so you don't want to miss out on those sessions. So even I will be launching my Plus course soon, and that is going to be a comprehensive course of grammar. And if you attend that course, basically the grammar syllabus for all your exams like XAT or even OMET or NMAT, CET is going to be covered in it. So of course I know that you don't want to miss out on those sessions. So that's why it's extremely important to get the Unacademy Plus subscription. So for that subscription, there are two plans that we always recommend. There's a 1-year plan which comes to you at 15,750 rupees, and a 2-year plan which is offered to you at 18,900 rupees. See, you can see that there are even short-term, subscriptions that you can take up. But if you take a look at the fees, these two plans are the most beneficial for you, and that is why we recommend these for you. Okay, now on top of this, if you use this code Apurva, this is my code, you will get a further 10% off on these fees. Okay, so please subscribe to Unacademy Plus right now, and don't forget to use my code Apurva, APURVA, to get a 10% off. Right. So let's start with our session today. So figure of speech, guys, is basically, a way of making a sentence better in terms of impact. So sometimes when you have plain sentences, you want to emphasize on something, you want to highlight something in the sentence, or you want to increase the effect of the sentence, you can use a figure of speech to do all these things. Okay. Now in this particular session, we are going to take a look at 20 figures of speech that are most commonly used and most commonly asked in SNAP. Okay. And I have collected all of them from the previous year's question papers of SNAP and the syllabus. Right. So, for our sort of understanding and, so that we remember better, I am going to divide these figures of speech according to their function. So the first 5 that we are going to discuss, they are sort of related to repetition or sound. Okay. Right. So let's start with the first one. So the first one is alliteration. Alliteration is basically when a sound gets repeated in a sentence, okay, and it sort of becomes, it sort of gives you a very nice rhythm to that sentence. Now, what kind of sound do we want to be repeated? So in alliteration, we are looking for a consonant sound to be repeated. Okay, what are the consonant sounds in English, guys? So any sound which is like m, n, k, p, l, these are consonant sounds. Okay, basically what we need to remember is the sounds which are in the range of a. So when you have sounds like a, e, u, okay, these are vowel sounds. So we are not looking for those sounds here. We are looking for consonant sounds. So all the other sounds which are not in the range of a are consonant sounds. Okay, that's the easiest way to remember them. So take a look at the sentence so that you will understand this better. So the example is, but a better butter makes a batter better. Okay, I'm sure all of you are reminded of the tongue twisters that you used to say for fun. So all the tongue twisters, of course, can be examples of alliteration. So see, in this particular sentence, we can see that the sound b and the sound t is repeated. But a better butter makes a batter better, right? So always remember, here we are not looking for the alphabet. We are not saying the letter B and the letter T is repeated. Okay, we are saying the sound B and the sound T is repeated. So that's what we are looking for. Okay, I'll give you another example so that you remember this better. So when we say sheep should sleep in a shed, so the sound sh is repeated. Or another example would be, Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, right? So the sound p is being repeated. So these are examples of alliteration. Okay, let's go to the second figure of speech, which is onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia is basically the description, or when you have a word that imitates the natural sound of something. So I'll give you an example. The example which is here is, the rustling leaves kept me awake. Okay, so when you think of the sound that leaves make, okay, because of the wind, it is rustling. So the word rustling copies the sound or reminds you of the sound which leaves make. Okay, so this rustling is an example of onomatopoeia. Okay, or when you say that when sort of the soldiers were crossing the river, I could hear the splash of the water. So splash of the water, so splash is the sound that the water makes. Okay, it imitates the sound that water makes. Or if we are making something, like if you're cooking something, your pan is hot, you add your oil, and if you add a piece of chicken or fish in it, it sizzles. So the sizzle of the pan, or the sizzle of the food. Okay, so that's why sizzler, guys, do you remember when a sizzler is served onto your table, it actually sizzles. Okay, so sizzle is a word that imitates the sound that the dish makes. Okay, so these words are examples of onomatopoeia. So that's what we need to remember. Right. Now, anaphora is something which is related to repetition again, but here we are really talking about repetition of a part of a sentence. Okay, so it could be a word or a couple of words, like a phrase being repeated in a particular sentence. So take a look at the example. Okay, so the example says, every day, every minute, in every way, I'm getting better. So you must have observed this every is repeated everywhere, right? So every day, every minute, every way. So this is an example of anaphora. Or if I say, I want my money right here, right now. So right here, right now, right is repeated. That's an example of anaphora. So in anaphora, we are not looking for sound to be repeated. We are looking for, a phrase or a word being repeated just to enhance the effect of the sentence. Okay. So the next figure of speech that we have is assonance. Assonance is now the vowel sound being repeated. So here in alliteration, we talked about consonant sounds. Now we are talking about vowel sounds. Okay, so that's the difference. So if you take a look at the example, it says go and mow the lawn. So this sound is repeated. Okay, ow, go and mow the lawn. So that's the sound that is repeated. Or if I give you another example, I can say, it beats as it sweeps and it cleans. So beats, sweeps, cleans. Which sound is repeated? The sound E. It's a vowel sound. Okay, so that is assonance. And then the last one that we are talking about is rhyme. So rhyme is basically repetition of sounds at the end of lines. So when you talk about nursery rhymes, or when you talk about most of the poems, not all of them, but most of the poems, the last letters, they rhyme with each other. So take a look at the example. We are saying, Mary had a little lamb, its fleece was white as snow, and everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go. It followed her to school one day, which was against the rule. It made the children laugh and play to see a lamb at school. So, when you look at these words, snow, go, rule, school, these words rhyme with each other. So that's an example of rhyme. Rhyme, I would say, actually is one of the easiest figure of speech to, identify. Now, let's take a very quick recap of these that we have discussed, and then we will move on to the next ones. Okay. So alliteration is repetition of consonant sounds. Remember, we are not looking for letters; we are looking for sounds. Okay. So when a sound like p, b, k, sh, y, and etc. Is repeated in a sentence, that is alliteration. Onomatopoeia is, looking for words that imitate sounds of a particular thing. Okay, so when you say splash, let's say sizzle, or rustling of leaves, or hum, or a thud of a backpack, so that is onomatopoeia, right? The third one is anaphora. Anaphora is when a word or a phrase in a sentence gets repeated, again just to enhance the effect of the sentence. So examples being, for example, it is my life and my life is my purpose. Okay, so things like that. The next one is assonance. Assonance is when a vowel sound is repeated in a sentence. So it could be oo, it could be e, it could be a. So that same vowel sound getting repeated. And the fifth one that we discussed was rhyme. Rhyme is basically when you have similar words with similar sounds towards the end, at the end of the lines in a poem. Right. Okay. So let's move on to the next two figures of speech. So now these are based on comparison. Okay. Right. So, simile and metaphor. So the easiest way to remember them is simile is direct comparison, metaphor is an indirect comparison. Okay. Now, how do we say that this is direct comparison? Basically, because you find words like and as. Okay. So take a look at, this example. Our soldiers are as brave as lions. Okay. So we are comparing our soldiers with lions, and we have used these words, so they suggest that this is a direct comparison. Okay. Or when I say that, when we were little, my brother and I used to fight like cats and dogs. So like cats and dogs, of course I'm comparing, our fights with, how cats and dogs fight, but I've used the word like, so it tells you that this is a direct comparison. So the figure of speech is going to be simile. Okay. Now metaphor is an indirect comparison, because again you are comparing two things without the words like and as. Okay. So there is a comparison, but we don't use these words. So take a look at the example. Sorry. So when we say laughter is the best medicine, we are basically comparing laughter, to a medicine. And instead of saying laughter is like the best medicine, we are saying laughter is the best medicine. So this is like an indirect comparison. So it's a metaphor. So when you say all the world is a stage, it's a metaphor. Okay. So let me give you some more examples of simile and metaphor. So see, for simile, we can also say the explanation is as clear as a crystal. Sorry. Or we can also say her smile is as beautiful as a rose. Okay. So that these are examples of simile. And for metaphor, we can also say the snow is a blanket on the road. Okay, the white snow is a blanket on the road. So it's like a blanket, but we are not using the word like. Okay, or when you say the water was his mirror. Okay, so the water is compared to a mirror. The water was his mirror. So indirect comparison. So it's going to be a metaphor. Right. So simile, direct comparison, look for words like as. Metaphor is basically an indirect comparison. So when you see a comparison, but you do not find like and as in the sentence. Okay, let's move on to the next. Okay, now these are dependent on sort of wording. Okay, all the figures of speech that we are going to discuss here on this particular slide, they are sort of based on how they are worded or how they are phrased or who they are addressed to. Okay, so let's start with the first one, guys. So first one is euphemism. Okay, now euphemism is basically in our lives, when we have situations where we have to say harsh things. Okay, we have to say things that can be hurtful. So instead of going for harsh words, we sometimes go for milder expressions or softer words. Okay, so that is exactly what euphemism is. Okay, so basically when you use polite expressions or sort of softer expressions to talk about something which is harsh, it is euphemism. Let me give you an example. So if you say you're becoming a little thin on top, Now this little thin on top is basically saying that you're going bald. Now if you say, somebody, like if you say it to somebody that you're going bald, it can be quite rude, it can be insulting, hurtful. So instead of that, you can just keep it light and you can say you're becoming a little thin on top. Okay. Another, examples of very commonly used euphemisms are when you say, for die, instead of saying somebody died, we use pass away. Somebody passed away. That's an example of euphemism. Then also, instead of saying somebody got fired from their job, we can say somebody was let go. Okay. So for example, even if I am the boss, rather than saying I'm firing you, I can say I'm sorry, I have to let you go. Right. That's an example of a euphemism. Or even like, somebody, if they are unemployed, they can also say I am between jobs rather than saying I am unemployed. So basically, euphemism is a softer way of saying something that is harsh. Okay. The next one is hyperbole. Now, hyperbole is basically exaggeration. Okay, like making a mountain out of a molehill, you can say that. And hyperbole again is very commonly used figure of speech. All of us are home, and I'm sure your parents keep telling you to do things, but sometimes we forget. And the other day, my mother yelled at me saying that I have told this to you a million times, but you still forget. Okay, now when she say a million times, has she actually told that to me a million times? No, she must have mentioned it maybe 5 or 6 times. So when she said million times, it's basically exaggeration, okay, to increase the effect of the sentence. So that is hyperbole. Okay. Or when sometimes you say, I'm so tired, I feel like I'm going to die. Okay. So you are exaggerating. Or I'm so hungry, I could eat a horse. Exaggerating. So that is hyperbole. Take a look at the example here as well. My grandmother is as old as the hills. So, you should not take it literally. I do not actually mean that my grandmother and the hills are the same age. Okay. Just exaggerating to sort of highlight or enhance the effect of the sentence. Right. Let's take a look at the next figure of speech, which is inversion. Now, inversion is basically changing the normal word order, right? See, in English, when we make sentences, we have a decided word order, right? So we start with a subject, then we have our verb, and then we have the object or complement or adverb, whatever is there, right? Now, sometimes what happens is, just to enhance the effect of a particular sentence, we change this order so that sort of we can get attention, we can highlight what we want to. Okay, take a look at this sentence here. Okay, this is the example of inversion. So we are saying, never have we witnessed such a cruel behavior. Take a look at the first part, never have we witnessed. Okay, now is this a normal word order for a sentence? Okay, for an affirmative sentence, it's not. Okay, so usually we will say something like, we have never witnessed. Okay, this would be the normal sentence, like the word order, but we have changed it to increase the effect or emphasize on something. So this is inversion. Never have we witnessed such a cruel behavior. Or, the other day I went to a restaurant and rarely have I tasted such good food. Okay, so when I say rarely have I had such good food, again, rarely have I had is not the normal word order, right? Normally we would say I have rarely had such good food, but just to again emphasize on something, I have changed the word order. So when you change the word order like that, the figure of speech is inversion. Right. Let's move on to the next figure of speech, which is personification. Now, personification, the name suggests what it is about. Personification is basically when you have an object, a thing, or an idea, or an animal, okay, which is given human traits. Now, what are some common human traits? When you say laughing, when you say, let's say, dancing, singing, enjoying, or getting angry, okay, these are human traits. But if I say that, the other day I took my dog out for a walk and she was so happy that she was smiling. Now, dogs don't smile. Smiling is a human trait. Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm personifying my dog. I'm giving her a human trait. So that is an example of personification. Take a look at the example here. So when you say fire swallowed the entire forest. Now, when you use this word swallow, it's a human thing, right? Swallowing something. So we are giving it to an object which is fire. So it is personification. Another example would be the flowers were dancing with the wind. Okay, now flowers dancing. Again, dancing is a human quality, it's a human trait. Giving it to flowers, so personifying the flowers. Okay, so whenever you have an object or an animal and they are described doing something which is a very typically human thing to do. Okay, so that's an example of personification. Something that happens to us, I think, very regularly. I can say, I got up in the morning because my alarm clock was yelling at me. Now, an alarm clock is an object. To yell is a human thing to do. So, alarm clock was yelling at me is an example of personification. Right. Let's take a look at the next figure of speech. It is pun. Now, pun is actually, puns are fun. I should say that. So, puns are actually word plays. Okay. All of us know that in English, we have different words which can have different meanings in different situations. Okay. So, when you sort of have a play, of those different meanings of those words in a sentence, then you can create a pun. Let me give you an example so that you understand this better. So we are saying an elephant's opinion carries a lot of weight. Now see, the word play here is elephant, weight, right? So see, when you say somebody's opinion carries a lot of weight, you basically mean that their opinion is very important, right? But when you say an elephant's opinion carries a lot of weight, suggesting that elephant is a heavy animal and his opinion carries a lot of weight, so that is the word play here. Now I'll give you another example of this. So if I say she had a photographic memory, but she never developed it. Okay, so we are talking about how you need to develop your memory by doing exercises and everything, but here the wordplay is on how she had a photographic memory and never developed it. So how you need to develop photographs. Okay, so that's the pun. Another example of a pun would be a boiled egg. A boiled egg for breakfast is hard to beat. Okay, now if you take a look at the meaning of the sentence, it's actually, you can say that a boiled egg can be the best breakfast. Like there's nothing as good as a boiled egg. It's hard to beat. But because you're talking about eggs, and beat as in, so beat can be like to defeat somebody, and beat can also be when you beat eggs. Okay, so that's why you're saying a boiled egg for breakfast is hard to beat. So that's the word play. Okay, so puns, as I said, are actually a lot of fun. So especially if you're reading a book and if there is a word play, if there's a pun, you can enjoy it a lot. Okay, and you have to be very witty to be able to create puns. Okay, right. So the next figure of speech that we are going to talk about is aphorism. Aphorism is basically a precise statement that gives a message, or it sort of tells you a general truth. Okay, now take a look at the example. When you say the simplest questions are the hardest to answer, that can be an example of an aphorism. So basically a statement that tells you something very precisely. Or another example could also be you can kill a man but you can't kill an idea, or actions speak louder than words. These are all examples of aphorism, right? The next one is apostrophe. So apostrophe, there are sort of two main, let's say, functions of apostrophe that come to our minds. One is apostrophe as a punctuation mark. Okay, so when you say apostrophe s, like a dog is a man's best friend, so this apostrophe, right? But here we are not talking about this apostrophe. This apostrophe is often used for possession, so we're not talking about that. This is apostrophe as a punctuation mark, this one. Okay, so remember, we're not talking about that. Here we are talking about apostrophe as a figure of speech. Okay, now when do you say that a particular sentence has apostrophe as the figure of speech in it? When you are talking to somebody, or there is a speaker who is addressing somebody who is not present. Okay, so it can be somebody who is not present, somebody who is dead, or somebody who is something that is an inanimate object. Okay, so for example, imagine there is a person talking to, let's say, life, a person addressing death, a person addressing a bird, or a person addressing somebody who is not present or dead, maybe great grandfather or somebody. So all these could be examples of apostrophe. Take a look at the sentence here. We are saying, is this a dagger which I see before me, the handle toward my hand? Come, let me clutch thee, and I have thee not, and yet I see still thee. Okay, I have thee not, so I don't have you, but I still see you. That's what it says. And let me clutch thee. Okay, thee basically means you. So this person is talking about the dagger. Dagger is like a small knife. Okay, so dagger is an object, right? And this dialogue is addressed to a dagger, and that is why it's an example of apostrophe. Or when you also have sentences like, oh life, how wonderful you are. So life is something that you usually don't talk to, right? So if you're addressing life, that can also be an example of apostrophe. Okay, let's have a quick recap of what we've talked about on this page, and then we will go to the next examples that we have. Right, so the first one that we discussed was euphemism, guys. Euphemism is basically saying something which is harsh or which can be harsh in a softer way. Okay, so keep these examples in mind when you say, instead of saying somebody died, somebody kicked the bucket, somebody passed away. Okay, so that is euphemism. Hyperbole is exaggerating something. So I'm so hungry I could eat a horse. Okay, or I have told you a million times but you still don't do it. Okay, that's an example of hyperbole, exaggerating something. Inversion is changing the word order to increase the impact of the sentence. So never have I done something like this. Okay, rarely have I done something like this. These are examples of inversion. Personification is when you take something like an object or an animal and you sort of describe them doing a human thing. Okay, something like dancing, enjoying, laughing, these are just examples. Okay, so an object described doing something which is a very human thing to do, so that is personification. Pun is a wordplay, basically considering different meanings which are possible of that word. So when you have a wordplay in a sentence, puns are very humorous, and again, as I said, they are very smart, they are very witty. Okay, the next one that we discussed was aphorism. Aphorism is basically a concise statement which gives a message. So actions speak louder than words. That's an example of an aphorism. Then apostrophe. Apostrophe is addressing somebody who is not present, who is dead, or an object. Okay, so when a dialogue is addressed to any of these things that I mentioned, that can be an example of apostrophe. Right, so I hope these things are clear to all of you, and let's move on to the next ones. So yeah, now these 4 figures of speech are based on contrast or contradictory ideas, and we'll have to pay close attention because they can be a little confusing. Okay, now the first is antithesis. Now antithesis, guys, is basically two opposite ideas put together in a sentence to achieve contrasting effect. Okay, so when you say man proposes, God disposes. Now proposes and disposes are opposite ideas. They are put together. They are away from each other, not next to each other. Okay, away together, but away from each other, but put together in a sentence. And what happens is you sort of achieve a contrasting effect because of that. Now let me give you more examples of antithesis. Also, when you say united we stand, divided we fall. Right? So see, these are opposite ideas, united, divided, stand and fall. We have put them together in a sentence and sort of we are getting a contrasting effect because of it. Okay, so that is antithesis. Now the second one, the next one is irony. Irony is a lot like sarcasm. Okay, so basically an irony also is a little bit of funny, a little funny. So, the intended meaning of the words is different from their actual meanings. So, for example, this morning my phone broke down all of a sudden, okay? And I said, oh, wow, that is exactly what I needed. So, when I say, oh, wow, that is exactly what I needed, I don't actually mean those words. I'm being sarcastic. So, that is ironic. Got it? When do you actually say, oh wow? So if somebody tells me that, okay, you're getting a promotion, or we are gifting you something, we are gifting you a new dress, then I'll say, okay, oh wow, that is exactly what I needed, right? So that is how I intend to say those words in those situations. But then something bad happens, my laptop breaks down, and if I say, oh wow, that is exactly what I needed, that is irony. So I'm using those words, but I don't mean them in their actual meaning. Okay. Now, see, take a look at this example. Those of you who have been to a dentist will very well relate to this. He enjoyed his job as much as a root canal. So, all of you know root canal basically is a very painful process, can be, not is, can be, and definitely not enjoyable. It's a little scary. Okay, so we are saying he enjoyed his job as much as a root canal. So basically, did he enjoy his job? Not at all. He hated it. But we are using this word enjoyed here just to sort of indicate an irony. So we don't actually mean that he enjoyed it. Okay, so that is how an irony is created. Another example of an irony would be if I say, my brother is a pilot and he's scared of heights. Now he's a pilot, he's scared of heights. Okay, that's an irony. Another would be a friend of mine who's a marriage counselor is filing for divorce. So a marriage counselor filing for divorce, it would be an irony. Okay, now the next one is paradox. So paradox is again something which presents opposite ideas, but what happens is paradox contradicts itself. Okay, it's not just that you have opposite ideas and sort of you get a contrast meaning. It's not like that. So usually what happens in a paradox is that the second part contradicts the first part. So it's like that. Take a look at the examples. We are saying all animals are equal, but some are more equal. So here we are saying all of them are equal, and then we are saying but some of them are more equal. So the second part contradicts the first part, so that is paradox. Okay, let me give you one more example of paradox. So if I say I just know one thing, that I know nothing. Got it? So I just know one thing, that I know nothing. So the second part contradicts the first part. So that is paradox. Okay. And the last one, oxymoron, is two opposite ideas put together. Okay. So that is oxymoron. So when you say it's an open secret, see, open and secret are opposite. They are put together. You are seriously funny. Seriously and funny are opposite put together. This is an original copy of my Aadhaar card. When you say copy and original, how can it be an original copy? So that is an example of an oxymoron. Or when you say that, so for example, we are going to have a play of our college, everybody should act naturally. Okay, act naturally. That's an example of oxymoron again. Or I can say this room is so quiet, it is like deafening silence. Deafening and silence, oxymoron. Bit of sweet memories, it's the only choice that you have. When you say only and choice, oxymoron. Okay, now let me quickly tell you what is the difference, because all of them, as I said, we talked about contrast or contradiction in some or the other way. Okay, so how are they different from each other, guys? The first one that we talked about was antithesis. Remember, in antithesis, we do have opposite ideas. They are not next to each other. They can be far away from each other, and they sort of give you a contrasting effect. Usually in antithesis, these two opposite ideas are in two different parts of sentences. Okay, like God proposes, man disposes. United we stand, divided we fall. Okay, two different parts of sentences. The next one that we discussed was irony. Now, irony, you don't have to have opposite ideas, but what actually happens is you don't mean what you say. Okay, so if I, for example, say that, okay, today it is raining so much that we can't go for the movie, and when I say, oh, great, I don't mean, oh, great, that way. I don't mean it in a happy way. Okay, so I'm being sarcastic. So that is irony. Paradox is, again, you do have contrasting ideas, but usually the second part contradicts the first part. Okay, that does not have to happen in antithesis. Okay, so that is paradox. The last one is oxymoron. Oxymoron is two opposite words put together, okay, after each other. So antithesis, they were away. Oxymoron, they are together, like an open secret. Or when you say you're seriously funny, this is an original copy put together, okay, next to each other. So that's an oxymoron, right? So I hope you are clear with this as well. And with this, we can go to the next two remaining figures of speech that we have. So now these are about, representing something, okay? So the earlier ones were about contrast, and these are about representing things. So let's talk about metonymy first. Metonymy is replacing the name of a thing with a name of something it's closely associated with. Okay. So for example, England decides to keep a check on immigration. So this England, who are we talking about by England? We are talking about the government, right? So that is an example of metonymy. Or if you want to talk about the President of the United States of America, instead of the President, if you say the White House has decided to do something, so the White House here is basically a replacement for the President of the United States. Okay, so that is metonymy. So when you replace something which something that it can stand for, so that is an example of metonymy. Another example of metonymy, guys, could also be when you say the pen is mightier than the sword. So, when you say the pen is mightier than the sword, we actually do not mean the pen, and we actually do not mean the sword. But pen represents intellect, sword represents maybe, strength, physical strength. So that's an example of metonymy. The next one is synecdoche. Synecdoche is basically a part of something represents the whole, or vice versa. So, a part of something represents the whole, or the whole of something represents the part. It can also be that way. Okay, I'll explain this with an example. So if I say his eyes met hers as she sat there paler and whiter than anyone in the vast ocean of anxious faces about her. So anxious faces here would not only be anxious faces as in only faces, right? Faces here represents people. Okay, or I can also give you a simpler example. If I say, for example, my brother was flaunting the new wheels he has got, okay, or he was showing off the new wheels. So was he actually showing only the new wheels? No. So new wheels basically mean car. So he was showing off his new car. So that is synecdoche. Okay. Another very commonly used example is when you say, I need all hands on deck. Now, all hands on deck means, do you only need hands? No. So that means you need all those people. So hands represent people. Hands is a part of, somebody's body representing the entire person. Okay, so all hands on deck basically will mean I need all these people to work on a particular thing, right? So yeah, guys, so this is all about figures of speech. We have done 20 of them. Go through them again. And so what we are going to do is, in tomorrow's session, before we start talking about vocabulary, I am going to select some examples which have been very often asked in Snap, and I'm going to add some examples of my own in them. And first thing that I'll do tomorrow is I'll ask you to identify figures of speech in those particular examples, and then we will continue with the rest of the vocabulary session that we are going to have. I hope this is clear to you all. And again, take up the Plus subscription now, because next week I'm starting my Plus course and I'm sure you don't want to miss out on that. And apart from these Plus courses of the educators that you will get to attend, you will also get to solve a mock test series which can help you evaluate your performance. You will get to see the leaderboard and you will see how many students are, getting all the answers correct. So it will be very encouraging for all of you. And plus, you will also get a chance to interact with your faculty much more, and many such other facilities on the Plus platform. Okay. To subscribe to the Plus platform, you just need to install the app on your phone. Once you've installed the app, just tick for the Plus, option, select your course, which is CAT, and then get the subscription. So for your subscription, as I told you in the beginning, these two plans are the most recommended plans for you. You can go for the 1-year plan, which comes to you at 15,750, and or the 2-year plan, which is offered to you at 18,900 rupees. Okay, and Guys, if you use this code, which is Apurva, that can be seen on your screens right now, you will get a further 10% off. Okay, so subscribe to Unacademy Plus right now and please use my code to get a 10% discount. Right. Apart from that, Unacademy also offers courses on all these competitive exams. So if any of your friends or relatives are preparing for these exams, please ask them to check out these courses of Unacademy on the YouTube channels of Unacademy or also on the Unacademy app. Okay. Last but not the least, do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, CAT for MBA. Like and share these videos with your friends so that you can also have discussions. And that is, again, having discussions with your friends is a very effective way of revising what you have learned. Okay. So don't miss out on that. Press the bell icon so that you'll get notifications of all the video sessions that are upcoming. And also join our Telegram group for the material of this session and all the other sessions that you've been attending. Okay, so that's it for today, guys. I'll see you tomorrow at 6 p.m. Take care till then. Bye.